A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for joining us on this edition of Spectrum. We are coming to you live on Radio 1 FM 90, broadcasting from the Central Building, and live on our website, which is www.radio1fm90.com. On that website, you click on the icon with the word Listen Live. Now, you can also find this radio station on the different radio listening apps. Those you can obtain from the App Store, your smartphone. You download, look for Radio 1 FM 90, and as long as you have an internet connection, you should be able to listen to us from anywhere across this globe. We do value your feedback, and there's a number where you can send your messages. That's using WhatsApp, 0703 090 090. I'll repeat that number, 0703 090 090. Send us a question or comment, and the guest on the show this evening will be responding to those particular issues. Today we are looking at Uganda's oil update amid its escalating fuel prices. We know that the government of Uganda promised that before the end of this year, 2026, the country will have hit first oil, meaning we'll be able to produce our first barrels of oil, which is something that so many people are looking forward to in terms of the money that will come from that particular sector, but also in terms of the fuel that we'll be consuming in this country. And now the latest update was given by the ministry, and indeed we are still on the trajectory to hitting first oil. And it comes at a very interesting time when the prices of fuel are escalating. You might have heard from the ministry recently warning us that in this month of May that is coming, we should expect the prices to go up. But what surprised many people is the ministry saying that we have adequate oil supplies as brought in by the Uganda National Oil Company, and that there should not be any worry among members of the public. But already right now we are seeing prices have started to escalate, including transport fares and quick search around town. Some taxis have increased by 5,000, others by 10,000, and the pump price has also increased. So some people are wondering what could be going on. Tonight, I have a guest from the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, and that's the Permanent Secretary herself, Engineer Pauline Irene Batebe. Good evening, Madam PS. It's a pleasure having you on Spectrum this evening.
Good evening, Kenneth, and good evening to our dear listeners.
All right, like I've stated in the introduction of this discussion, there's concern out there among members of the public about the escalating fuel prices. And I'm sure the ministry has done the analysis to understand what could be going on and where this is likely to leave the country. Let's begin from there. What kind of information would you share with the public about what is going on?
Thank you, Kenneth, and thank you for having us at Radio 1. As the Minister of Energy and Mineral Development, we are always available to engage with the public on issues that are of national importance, like this particular matter to do with the fuel supply. Kenneth, but also our dear listeners, just to take us back into this whole conflict in the Middle East, it's important to remind ourselves that this conflict started about 28th of February of this year. So we are about 2 months into this conflict. And overall, apart from the last week or two ago, we have had a stable supply of petroleum products, and Ugandans had largely enjoyed fairly competitive prices. Now, it's important that I explain how this global situation relates to our regional and national dynamics in terms of fuel supply. Uganda and the entire of the East African region is a net importer of petroleum products, meaning that right now the entire region is importing its petroleum products. So we depend largely on the oil refineries that are in the Middle East, but also the global world, including India and Singapore, depending on where we are sourcing from. And then once we import these products, we bring them into the country through two major routes. The bulk of our products come through the port of Mombasa. So meaning that as a land-linked country, we also depend on the infrastructure within Kenya. Over 90% of our products come through Kenya, and the remaining minimal amount comes through Tanzania. And the question will be, why the bulk through Kenya? Kenya has infrastructure in terms of a petroleum products pipeline that starts from Mombasa and terminates in Eldoret.
Where we are now also shareholders.
And I'll speak to that shortly. So it is through that infrastructure that we then push product to Eldoret, and from Eldoret we then support the oil marketing companies to evacuate, and they equally evacuate in a number of ways. There are those that will come through the country, through Malaba, Busia, Tororo, by truck or trucks, and there is a volume that we take to Kisumu and we put on barges, and it comes and docks in Kauku, where we have a private sector storage facility run by a company called Mahadhi. And then, of course, product from Tanzania, the small volumes we are picking from Tanzania come through majorly the port of Dar es Salaam and sometimes the port of Tanga by truck through Mutukula into the country. So that then explains the logistics around the supply and distribution of these products. We, number one, are relying on the international market for supply, and then we are working with our neighbors to bring in the product. Now, given that situation, as government, we thought a bit ahead. In 2023, and thanks to His Excellency the President, he required the ministry to ensure that we onboard the Uganda National Oil Company to become the sole bulk importer of petroleum products into the country, partnering with an international company called Vitol. Why did we amend the original system? The original system was what we called the open tender system, where we would place orders for supplies together with a number of companies in Kenya, and then the products would be imported by the government of Kenya working with those companies, and Uganda accesses its allocation. So in the event of any supply challenges, naturally we would become second-class citizens in terms of access to product, because Kenya would definitely first take care of Kenya itself, and then Uganda comes as a second option. So that had introduced a security of supply risk. So by getting UNOC with its partner to be the sole importers, what this means, we make our orders from the refineries, and working with Vitol and UNOC, we are the ones that then supply the products to the oil marketing companies who operate in the downstream, the retail market in Uganda. So that eliminated a number of challenges in the supply chain. And as a result, for the last 2 months, we've been able to enjoy a fairly stable supply of petroleum products. Now, in terms of what we are seeing and witnessing today, it's important to highlight that as a country, we consume about 8 million liters of petroleum products combined. I'm combining diesel with jet fuel for aviation and petrol. 8 million liters per day, which translates to about 250 million liters per month. So we know the volumes of petroleum products that we consume, the volume. So what we do, working with the oil marketing companies, they place their orders, and UNOC has an allocation framework. It then allocates what volumes each of the oil marketing companies will receive. So once the product comes through the Kenya pipeline system to Eldoret, the oil marketing companies then lift that allocation that was provided by UNOC. Now, overall, we don't have a challenge today when it comes to the supply of petroleum products by UNOC and Vitol. We already have our products for the next 2 months guaranteed, or the orders were placed, the products were already loaded on the ships that are bringing product to Uganda.
Mm.
So the question will be, how have we been able to do that amidst this conflict, and yet some of our neighbors struggled at the onset of the conflict.
Including Kenya.
Including Kenya.
Which receives directly from its pipeline.
Yes, indeed. So the solution has been in this arrangement with Vito. Vito being a global company, it has the ability to navigate the markets, but also it possesses some refineries, so they are able to source for products from different parts of the world. Whereas the bulk of our product before the conflict was coming through the Middle East, majorly Oman, Bahrain, Abu Dhabi, and others, today we are sourcing product from parts of Europe, India, depending on the product. So you can see the diversification in terms of sourcing that we've had to do to remain stable when it comes to our supply. So on the supply side, working with UNOC and Vito, we have not received any reason so far to worry on the source of the product. What we have dealt with in the last few days, about a week and a half or two, that led to the distortion in the market that we experienced, was largely due to the logistics of bringing in the product beyond the port of Mombasa into the hinterland, but also naturally because our products were cheaper. Naturally, we created a rush where we've had a number of motorists, including truck owners, driving into Uganda through our different border posts and lifting product from Uganda. That distorts the market. We had a case in Busia, but also in Kasese. For Busia, they were coming in with bowsers, water bowsers, and filling them up with fuel, petroleum products, and driving back to Kenya. So that naturally distorts the market, meaning that the 8 million liters per day that we had programmed, which is about 250 million liters per month, now we are sharing it out at the border post in Busia, in Malaba, Adjumani, Arua, but also Kasese, Kisoro, and that therefore caused the imbalance that we experienced in the market.
Is that why you're explaining in your statement that there's been a sudden demand for more fuel in border towns? Is that what has caused this?
Precisely.
Have you netted some people?
We have worked with a number of district leaders. We had a case in Kasese where the resident district commissioner, the RDC, apprehended a number of buyers who were purchasing product in jerry cans and taking it across. We've had a number of RDCs come in. We received a report from areas of the Albertine Graben equally, of product that was being loaded en route to the DRC. So we've had working with the security organs, and it is a whole of government working with the security organs. We continue to address this emerging issue. So because of that low price, we had a rush, distorted the market, and led to the deficit in product. So what are we doing in that regard, apart from aspects of enforcing at border posts, etc.? We have worked with the oil marketing companies to quickly ensure that we are replenishing product into the market, and we've supported them good enough. In April, we had another cargo come in of about 119 million liters, and we've been supporting the oil marketing companies to quickly get this product in to return the system to a balanced position. And indeed, if you move around, especially the city, you will find that petrol stations that were struggling about 4 days ago, many of them are replenishing, but also out of the city as you drive up country.
All right. All right. I wanted to ask you this question. When it comes to issues of the pump price, that's really where people are concerned. Some people are thinking that once the government took over what they described as a monopoly of bringing in fuel in bulk, and then sort of selling to the oil marketing companies, the ones that finally give to the customers, there would be an element of price control where you say, above this you cannot sell, But now, as we speak now, the prices have started going up. At the same time, the minister is saying we still have enough supplies to take us for the next 2 months. The concern is around there. Why is the price going up when UNOC is still selling at the same price in terms of retail? What could explain this, and what are you doing about it?
Yes. So the first part I discussed, or I clarified on the distortion that we've just experienced in the market due to largely panic buying arising from that imbalance in the system. But it's important to highlight again, because we are net importers of petroleum products, we take price from the international market. How do we price our petroleum products? Our petroleum products are priced based on the prevailing international market price, which we call the Platts, that is set as a benchmark, but also the cost of bringing product, freight costs, insurance, the handling and logistical costs associated with getting the product into the country. So whenever there is a change in that, we will feel it. But also there would be the impact of inflation. We've had the dollar increase. By the onset of this conflict, the dollar was at about 3,600 in terms of exchange rate to Ugandan shillings. And today we are reporting a high of up to 3,800. So there is an inflationary cost arising from the impact of the dollar increment in the market. So that also has a bearing on price. But what control do we have? First of all, we operate what we call, ours is the market is open, it's competitive, it's driven by the forces of demand and supply. That is the structure of the Ugandan market. But by bringing in UNOC, what we managed to control is the price that UNOC gives to the oil marketing companies as they pick product at Eldoret. So we know the price that UNOC is giving the oil marketing companies. And in the discussions with the oil marketing companies, we've been having discussions with them, we remind them that we know what UNOC is giving you. So if there's going to be any appreciation in price on your retail stations, it has to be justifiable. Does it match the magnitude of increment due to inflationary costs? Yes, initially it was, apart from this distortion that we faced in the last 1 week or so, but we did see it when the prices increased from what we had before the conflict, from about 5,300 for petrol to about 5,400, 5,450. We were able to see that that was truly reflective of the implication of the price due to inflation costs. It made sense. But when we went into the region of 7,000, that was a distortion, and we came in. The Minister of Energy and Mineral Development has been very clear, because she has those powers under the Petroleum Supply Act. We will revoke licenses of those who continue to play in the market and continue to create this unnecessary distortion in prices on the market.
They are going to complain and say we are in a free market economy. There are factors. For instance, a fuel station might be in Gulu. You cannot compare, with a fuel station that is operating on Kampala Road. The cost of transporting from Kampala to Gulu might have an impact on the price. What would you tell them?
Yes, indeed.
A free economy.
We do have that conversation that fine, the petrol station is located in Gulu, but any increment has to be reflective of the actual costs. It has to be prudent. It shouldn't be exorbitant to extort from the consumer. So that we have been very stern with the oil marketing companies, and we continue to apprehend such companies. We had a situation in Adjumani where we had to quickly rein in, and indeed within a day, that retail station dropped prices. Yes.
At what level would you describe the price as extortion, looking at the dynamics that you've just talked about?
So right now, if you move around the city, you just have to look out for the major players, Total Energies, Vivo, but also players like Starbucks. it will tell you what the acceptable price within a locality should be. In Entebbe today, I was looking at the prices, but also in Bukoto. Somehow I went through Bukoto today, and for petrol we are straddling between 5,450 to 5,500. I saw an outlier on another station at about 5,699, and I sent a quick message and told my responsible officer, can you look at this? Why are we reporting slightly higher for this station? So they will have their reasons. It could be that they maybe bought the product from another oil marketing company. Sometimes that happens, and that is what we call them now going through another entity to purchase products. So the dynamics are several, but there has to be, you just have to see the major players in the market, and they will tell you the stability of price in the market.
Now, going by past experience, there has also been a problem of hoarding. Because of this kind of crisis, somebody like keeps a certain bulk of fuel somewhere, and then a crisis comes in, then they start selling it highly. Are you taking into account the fact that that also could be a problem in our market?
So those are also the ones we've been keen. We do have some wholesaler retail marketeers, and we are keen to know that indeed they are not selling at higher prices than the market should be taking. So we are keen. We are working with them. We are having meetings every other day to remind them that they must be prudent, and those who go beyond the acceptable price, we are apprehending them.
All right, Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90. My guest this evening is Engineer Irene Pauline Batebe. She is the Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, and we are looking at the current fuel prices. But remember, we also expect to start producing our oil in this country, which is something that so many people are anticipating and hoping that it would help to address some of these issues. Keep your comments coming via the WhatsApp line 0703 090 090. She'll be available to respond to some of these issues that you put across. Now, before we move away from this particular subject of the fuel prices, so what would be your message to first the members of the public, and then also the players in the market, the companies that are buying fuel from UNOC and then, selling it to the ordinary citizen? What would be your message to them?
Okay, so first is to highlight again the strategies government is putting in place to continue managing such crises when they emerge. Number one, of course, we continue to work with UNOC to ensure that we are growing our in-country storage capacity to be able to accommodate more volumes as part of our national strategic reserve. So we are in the process of developing a 320 million litre per day supply storage facility in Namwabula Mpigi. Remember, right now as a country we consume about 250 million litres per month. So that capacity will give us another 30 days about of storage reserves within the country. But as we do that, we support private sector. So we continue to support Mahadi in Kauku, where they maintain a 70 million litre storage facility, and UNOC is working with them to see how they maximize the utilization of that capacity as part of our strategy to ensure that we are growing our reserves. In addition, UNOC has, we have required them to work and expand the capacity in Jinja. We have a storage terminal in Jinja of 30 million litres, and UNOC is working to upgrade that to 40 million litres, but also add a jetty to bring efficiency in terms of product evacuation into the market. Of course, medium and long term, the oil refinery is going to be a key, it will be a game changer in terms of security of supply. At 60,000 barrels per day, once we commence the refinery operations in about 3 years, we should be able to enhance our security of supply, because in that case we won't depend on the international market for the supply of our product. We have the crude oil and we have the market. So this refinery, which is very viable, because of those two factors, will be critical as part of our strategy. And of course, we are keen, we'll continue monitoring the price in the coming months. Like we said, we have been bringing in product that we had ordered before the conflict. So the pricing has been based on the international market prices at the time, and we are entering a zone where we are starting to bring in product that was ordered during the period of the conflict, and that, without a doubt, will cause a price appreciation, because remember, we are price takers. We are purchasing from the international market. So we are working with UNOC and their partner Vito to ensure that the impact is not a spike, but it is regulated. It's regulated to be able to support Ugandans to afford this product as it comes in.
All right, we need to go for a quick break now. When we return, we'll begin the other discussion about the Ugandan oil sector. Are we still on the right trajectory as promised before the end of this year, or are we likely to see another postponement like it happened 2 years ago? Stay tuned, Radio 1 FM 90. Keep your comments coming via the WhatsApp line 0703 090 090. We'll return and continue with the discussion. Glad that you're still with us on Spectrum, live on Radio 1 FM 90. Today we are looking at Uganda's oil update amid its escalating fuel prices. My guest, Engineer Pauline Irene Batebe. She's the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Energy and Mineral Development. We began by looking at the current fears and concerns about the escalating fuel prices. The ministry actually says they have supplies that can last us for the next 2 months, and that they're doing everything possible to deal with those who are trying to cheat the public. They are looking at the prices in different regions and intervening where need be. They are also going to be serious on the problem of hoarding. Nobody should bring a crisis here in our country in terms of escalating the fuel prices. But on the other side also, we have an opportunity as a country to begin producing our own oil. And Engineer Batebe, the promise was before the end of this year. And we understand it takes quite some time. There are relevant infrastructure that is supposed to be in place before first oil. Are we still on the right trajectory to first oil? What exactly is going on?
Thank you, Kenneth. And in these unprecedented times, it is good news to hear that our project remains on course. This oil and gas project that we are working on as a country is a 10 to 15 billion US dollar project that combines our upstream in terms of extracting the oil, but also a crude oil export pipeline that terminates in Tanga, Tanzania, and of course an oil refinery as part of the commercialization plan. So far, we have made progress under our national petroleum policy, and Kenneth, I'm happy to inform the public that at the convention that we have just closed, the Oil and Gas Convention, we had the Right Honorable Deputy Speaker launch our national petroleum policy that is going to drive the sector for the next 10 years. That was an important milestone because it continues to provide clarity on the direction that this very critical sector is taking. So in terms of progress, we are on track for delivery of first oil this year. And indeed, even at the convention, we demonstrated to the public that attended with visuals, and I wish there was a way of doing the same with the rest of our listeners.
Let's try with the audio here.
So for the Tilenga project, which is operated by Total Energies, that will contribute significantly to our production to about 190,000 barrels per day. We are seeing good progress on Tilenga, and as we speak, we have registered completion of quite a significant number of wells, 145 wells out of 152, and Total Energies is on course to ensure that they complete and prepare the required wells for production. So they are approaching about 70%. And they continue to mobilize to ensure that they drive Tilenga to completion. We have seen good progress in Kingfisher. This is operated by CNOOC. in a joint venture with Total Energies and UNOC, but also the earlier one is a joint venture of the same companies. And for Kingfisher, which will produce 40,000 barrels per day, we have seen good progress, and they are largely done. The central processing facilities, the heart of the project, is at 99% complete, but overall the project is at about 76% in terms of the other infrastructure that support production. So we are working with the companies, and remember, the upstream is not operated separately. First Oil will be combined with the East Africa crude oil pipeline that commences its journey from Hoima, Chikuve to Tanga through Mutukula. So that 1,443 kilometer pipeline is at 84% complete, because we have to synchronize these three projects as part of First Oil. So indeed, in terms of the technical commissioning, we expect this to be done by the end of June, July, and then we start our journey into production. So the momentum is good. Interestingly, like we say, every crisis has a silver lining. This period, even as the world goes through the conflict, which is not desirable, is again the best time to put a crude oil of our type on the market, because the crude oil prices have spiked from about $65 per barrel before the conflict in January, February, to they hit a maximum of $120 per barrel. We foresee them settling at $115 per barrel. So a crude oil getting into the market today, interestingly, would bring a lot of value to the country. So it's a dual, it's a two-edged sword. On one hand, we are struggling as a globe.
What they call a blessing in disguise.
On the other hand, it's a blessing in disguise, because then your crude oil fetches great value on the market. Even on the refining side, this is also the best time to launch a refinery. We saw the refinery margins, or the profits, jump from about $2 to $5 per barrel to a record $50 per barrel refining margin. Although the Ugandan refinery is already profitable within about the same range of about $50 per barrel. So the timing is great for the oil and gas project of Uganda, and we look forward to that commissioning and the launch of First Oil. But we are not doing this.
When is that likely to happen? Do we have a specific date? Do we have a month? We only know before the end of this year.
Like I indicated,
it might be tomorrow.
The technical commissioning should happen between June and July this year.
June and July.
Yes.
What does that technical commissioning mean?
Technical commissioning, you're synchronizing all the systems and ensuring that they are speaking to each other. The upstream, operated by Total Energies and CNOC in Kingfisher, tying it into the crude oil pipeline.
So there will be some pumping
to
test.
As part of the testing, and if all goes well, which we believe it will, because a lot of work is going into this preparedness, then we start our journey of pumping. Interestingly, when we pump in Tilenga and Kingfisher, it will take about a month for the oil to reach, about 2 months for the oil to reach the port of Tanga. So it's a journey of 1,443 kilometers. And our crude oil is medium heavy, so it is a heated pipeline. So we will heat it and then push it through the pipeline, and it starts its journey that will take about 2 months to get to Tanga. So we look forward to that technical commissioning and prepare for First Oil. So yesterday at the convention, we were having a debate that First Oil might be different for different parties. And you never know for the financials. First Oil is when they touch the revenues, but technically it is when we pump out and we get the systems working and the crude oil flowing. And then the refinery will follow that journey within about 3 years, because it is slightly delayed due to some challenges we had with the earlier developer, but with our new partner from the United Arab Emirates, we are seeing steady progress in the refinery development. So overall, we are on course with the oil and gas project. We are also working with UNOC to develop the Kabalega Industrial Park. It's a petrochemical park where we will equally see a number of industries being developed. The infrastructure, we are on track. We've been working with the Ministry of Works and Transport, and they've invested quite some funding to ensure that the oil roads are largely complete. And if you visit the Graben, it's been well done. The Kabalega Industrial Park, in the airport that is within the Kabalega Industrial Park, has also progressed, working with Ministry of Works and Transport. We are at the tail end. It's at about 96% complete. They are concluding aspects of getting the radar done, and also synchronizing systems and ensuring that they are ready for commissioning. So the progress, the question that Ugandans usually ask, and I think, Kenneth, you did allude to it, why has it taken us all these years? We discovered commercial resources around 2006. So the question is, why has it taken us this time? Largely because of the complexity of this industry and the need to have the right frameworks in place. We took time to put the legal framework in place, got a policy, but also the legal and regulatory framework, set up institutions, the Petroleum Authority of Uganda, that supports us on aspects of regulation of the industry, set up UNOC as the commercial arm to drive state participation, government's participation through a commercial arm. All of that has been done in the last 20 years from the discovery point. And then we entered a journey of negotiating complex agreements with our developers. It is never easy. These are protracted because you're balancing different objectives between the private sector and government. We concluded that. Then the technical designs, front-end engineering designs, and then onboarding contractors, but also aspects of national content, extremely important.
And even compensation for
land.
For the land. It has not been an easy journey.
It hasn't been easy, especially for such complex projects, given the capacity and the amount of land required. So it's been a journey, but we are on course, and we are happy to inform the public that as government we remain committed to ensure that this oil brings value to the people of Uganda. And usually the question is, are you sure we will benefit?
And that's the issue, and I wanted to put it to you. Some people don't see good things coming out of this oil. They actually think this money is going to be stolen to benefit a few who are already in government. People are connected.
Again, the government is always planning for its citizens, and we already thought through that, and we've worked with partners. We've worked with the government of Norway and many other partners to ensure that we put in place robust frameworks to support and ensure that this oil goes to benefit the people of Uganda. One, on the revenue side, we, working with the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, we put in place a revenue management policy that also enhanced the Public Finance Management Act. And in there, we are categorical that all revenues accruing from the oil and gas sector will be collected at one point, which we call the Petroleum Fund, domiciled in the Bank of Uganda. And those revenues will strictly go for infrastructure development. And indeed, by the way, it's not that we are waiting for the revenues to trickle in. We've been getting a number of revenues already. We've been receiving from signature bonuses, from litigation cases that we won, etc. And indeed, that revenue has gone to infrastructure development. Our contribution to the Karuma hydropower plant.
So the money has already moved from the fund into the budget to support infrastructure projects?
Part of it, not the entire amount, yes. So, for example, our equity government's contribution to the Karuma hydropower project, which we developed alongside our our friends from China, our contribution came from this petroleum fund. So it has gone to ensure that we are doing something that will bring value to the citizenry in terms of power supply. So that remains the commitment of government. But also, in order not to just leave it to government, we are quite transparent. We have joined the Extractives Initiative Transparency International, where we are checked by the international world to ensure that we remain as accountable and as transparent as can be. And indeed, we are scoring well on our EITI record, and we continue to improve in that regard. I know that right now they want us to put out the production sharing agreements into the public. That's the only issue that we are grappling with majorly when it comes to EITI, showing that the government has been prudent so far in the utilization of these resources. What do we expect in terms of revenues from this sector? We expect about, on average, about $2 billion per year, which might not sound enormous, but it is a good contribution to the government because we don't have to borrow that. So it introduces aspects of sovereignty and ensures sustainable financing for our different infrastructure projects.
In your projection, how many years are we likely to exploit that particular area?
Yes, and so that was taking me also to the issue of sustainability of the oil and gas sector. So for the reserves and therefore the resources that we've discovered so far of 6.5 billion barrels, of which 1.4 billion barrels is recoverable, is what we are going to utilize. This will take us 20 years.
20 years.
But remember, that is only for less than 20% of our explored area in the Albertine Graben. So we are moving to open up new areas for exploration. We have done preliminary exploration work in Kadam Moroto, areas of Karamoja, and indeed the findings are promising. It shows that we have what we term as a working petroleum system. So we are opening up Kadam Moroto, but also Lake Choga Basin, areas of Lake Choga, and the remaining part of the Hoima Basin. So meaning that those 20 years will be complemented by additional resources as we enter our third licensing round, which we plan to undertake this year.
All right. Let's now go to some of the comments that are coming in from the listeners who have been sending us messages via the WhatsApp line 0703 090 I want to begin with a comment that comes in from Emmanuel, who writes in and says, does UNOC also sell to Total and Shell? Is the oil they sell to them more superior that they sell to others than they sell to others? If not, why does the perception that Shell and Total fuel is better? Where does it come from? That's a comment from Emmanuel there. Then we have another one from Rogers who says, I think it's time Uganda start to construct its own oil refinery independently and full owned by the Ugandan government. Another comment, Madam P.S., why is that fuel in Arua City is now 8,000 per litre and gets exhausted in jerrycans without 1 hour of official delivery? Another comment, what I hear from the guests is that the Ugandan consumer has been left to be exploited by the last mile distributors. You can't say you went into business to control supply and consequently prices now. To say there is nothing much to do about the prices, it is a shame. Did the government only look for profit as a monopoly? Then we have another comment. Good evening, Spectrum. Good talking from the PS of the Minister of Energy. Unfortunately, our talk applies for Kampala metropolitan area only. I traveled to Arua today. I'm writing this from one of Total petrol station in the city. The entire city fuel station don't have fuel. Fuel is available from jerrycan fuel sellers at a minimum cost of 80k per litre. That's Fred listening in from Arua. We have another comment here. UNOC, as the sole importer of petroleum products in Uganda, is charged with price controls for products too? That's a question. If yes, why do we see differences in pump prices of similar products on the market? As you are aware, UNOC there are unscrupulous fuel dealers hoarding the products in order to create artificial scarcity to extort super abnormal profits from the public. In the recent national budget paper, they have added at least 200 per litre, both on Argo and Super. Yet the players increased by over 2,000 per litre, even before the 1st of July. As regulators, what mitigation measures do you have to protect consumers? Now that our production is to begin this year, do we expect the products much cheaper than now? Those are comments from Kamugo Fred Keita, who is listening in from Chira municipality. One last comment here. Good evening, Kenneth, and the guests in studio. Energy security is a risk management issue. It's not only a policy issue. It's high time landlocked countries approached energy security as a risk management issue. It's high time strategic reserves are built. 40 million liters capacity is too small for a country like Uganda. That is less than a week. Imagine there is completely closure of routes. Second, refinery doesn't guarantee energy security if you don't use the lens of risk management. Nigeria is a good example. They are still importing refined products. The good is that the amendment of petroleum supply law to have a national oil company supply has saved the country from many challenges. The risks that are still existing are supply concentration risk and route concentration. That's a comment from Edison, who is listening to us from here in Kampala. Let's hear your responses, Madam PS.
Okay, so thank you very much for that feedback, and thank you, listeners, for raising those pertinent issues. So the first question was on whether UNOC sells to Shell and Total Energies, and why those companies have different prices, or their fuel is found to have a different quality. Number one, yes, indeed, UNOC does sell to all the oil marketing companies in the country, including Shell or Vivo Energies and Total Energies. So at that point in Eldoret, the product is the same. But different companies have, it's like cooking. You can decide to add a certain ingredient. If I like maybe turmeric, I add to make my soup or broth better. So these companies have what we call additives. They add certain additional chemicals to make their fuel have what we call better engine power or performance boosting. So it improves engine responsiveness. Others will add certain chemicals to enhance corrosion protection. But you see, if we did that for all fuel, then it would become expensive. So the minimum fuel that we supply is okay. It meets the required specifications. These companies go over and above to add certain additional chemicals, largely to do that, to improve performance, but also enhance protection and wear resistance. So that's what V-Power, for example, is all about. They are largely boosting performance of the engines and improving on corrosion protection, among other benefits. So yes, indeed, UNOC supplies to all the oil marketing companies. The oil refinery in Uganda, we completely agree that the oil refinery is important, and I want to agree with Edison that it's not just the oil refinery, but to look at it as an energy security management issue, and that's why we've been very careful in the structuring of our oil refinery. Although we've partnered with the private sector because they bring value in terms of capital mobilization and technical know-how, in this refinery, the government is still a player. So the private sector owns about 60% shareholding, and the government, once again through the National Oil Company, owns 40% shareholding, and we are investing accordingly. And we did agree with our partner that we would develop this refinery using purely equity, so funding from the two shareholders, Government of Uganda represented by UNOC, and the private sector investor. So government is a key player and is driving the development of this refinery, working with this private sector player. Arua City, yes, indeed, I highlighted, and I did indicate that the border post areas continue to grapple with higher prices driven by the distortion arising from sharing of fuel. We are having our fuel going beyond the Ugandan border in bulk. And we have looked at our demand. It has already shot from the 8 million liters per day to more than the 8 million liters. So indeed, we are supplying more than we usually do. So that's what is driving those prices in Arua. But we are working with the oil marketing companies to ensure that we are replenishing supplies across the country. And we have committed that in the coming few days, within a week, we should largely serve these areas and bring back the price. But also, as we sternly warned the companies that are causing panic buying and distorting prices, we have warned them, and we continue to apprehend those that we get. So it's not that government has left the citizens on their own. Otherwise, it would have continued through this week. But you will see that prices have started coming down.
All right. Unfortunately, time is not on our side. I'll give you an opportunity in a few seconds, your closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Kenneth, and I want to thank our dear listeners this evening. This topic is quite vast, but I do appreciate Radio 1 for giving us this opportunity. As the Minister of Energy and Mineral Development, but also as on behalf of the government of Uganda, we remain committed to ensure a stable supply of petroleum products into this country, and which we are doing. I indicated in my earlier remarks that today we are assured already of product that is within the country, in the systems where we import through Kenya pipeline system and others, that we have about 2 months of product already available in those different areas.
Right.
And we continue to ensure that supplies are coming. So it's not just 2 months and then stop. No.
All right.
We have confirmation from UNOC and our supplier, and should anything change, they will notify us, but that hasn't happened. So we want to assure the country of stable supply as we tackle the issue of price that we take from the international market and inflation.
All right, with that, we
Thank
come
you
to the end
very
of
much.
Spectrum. Thank you so much, Madam PS, for turning up to explain some of these very important issues. And thank you very much, dear listener, for tuning in and contributing to this discussion. Tomorrow, 2 hours of analysis of the top events of the week. Do join me then. But up next, we have the news in English with Miss Josephine Dagano. Thereafter, the Soul Train with Baby Junior.